This is TWiT.
We gotta talk to you about the CMA, about the UK, the United Kingdom. Microsoft has made them an offer they cannot refuse.
Actually, Microsoft made them an offer they did refuse, which is the problem.
It's unbelievable.
I'm going to try so hard to be calm during this segment. I expressed my belief that the CMA is out of its frickin' mind and has no idea what it's talking about and is the least responsible regulatory body on earth, and that the arguments it's made against this acquisition literally make no sense. They involve future crimes about some non-existent market that's never going to be a market. And by the way, the solution that we're going to get to that Microsoft is proposing doesn't fix anything. But we'll get to that because this whole thing
I don't even know why they offered it.
It's a crazy bit. You know what though? But the CMA is so stupid. They're probably going to be okay. We'll get to that. It's just like I'm trying. I really am trying. So everybody, well, not everybody, but most people probably know at least most of the convolutions that occurred over the past couple of months with the CMA and Microsoft and Activision Blizzard. Right? The CMA was betting on the FTC prevailing. They latched their horse onto that. And that failed, and that now they're hanging and blowing in the wind. And my belief until about 36 hours ago was that they understood that they had made a huge mistake when they ruled against this thing, when they blocked it. The competition commissioner from the EU back in May gave a wonderful speech where she explained exactly why, and she did this very politely, but said that the decision of the CMA was wrong. This is not the role of antitrust. It's not just to block things, it's to do the best thing for the market. And that means protecting consumers and or competition, however you want to look at it, depending on the jurisdiction. And that Microsoft's not remedies, but the concessions they offered met the needs of antitrust, of the antitrust concerns, and they passed it. They allowed, they're allowing the deal. The FTC lost, as we know, after a hearing. They appealed, lost that too. I don't know why Microsoft didn't just conclude this transaction at that time, but they didn't. They decided to work with the CMA, and the CMA backtracked. They stepped back from the cliff. They said, we don't really ever do this, but we're going to revisit this decision because the information has come to light that Microsoft's going to provide us with. This is the information that came to light during the FTC hearing, allegedly. I don't really think there's any new information there. I will say we talked about this. Mm-hmm. When the CMA published Microsoft's rationale for why this deal should now be allowed, it was notable in that there were no new concessions, right? They didn't offer them a single thing. They just said, look, nothing has changed, but now we have this, they called it evidence, but information that came out during the FTC hearings that I think will cause you, the CMA, to step back and say, okay, actually, this makes sense. Also, the EU approved the deal and had legally binding agreements by Microsoft that required them to do certain things that also address the CMA's concerns, specifically with cloud gaming, this cloud streaming thing that they're really just hung up on for some crazy reason.
Yeah.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but if the gaming world is a big pie, 50% of it is mobile. The rest of it is like 40%, 50%-ish of PC console. Used to be console was a little bigger. Now PC is a little bigger. And then there's this one pixel wide nothing that amounts to nothing, and that's cloud streaming. And Google entered this market and left. Microsoft entered this market and realized it could not offer it as a standalone product. So they offer it only as a perk, as their most expensive Game Pass subscription. And what they have found over the last year or two is that people use it to look at something and then they go download it or buy it. They don't play it that way because most games, frankly, do not work well streaming.
Latency matters.
Yeah,
oddly enough.
Yep. And one of the games I tried to play on both Stadia and I guess it was cloud gaming back in the day was the Doom Eternal. And it's, Doom already has that game has a weird effect where you feel like you're running on ice. It's got that, it doesn't feel natural. And when you stream it, it's even worse. The effect is just exaggerated. So, you go by a monster and you keep going, you're like trying to shoot it, but you keep going because it's still reading the joystick input or whatever, the controller input from before. Anyhow, positive that we were engaging in something that I call regulatory theater, that the CMA was going to look at this thing, let a bunch of time go by, pretend they're evaluating it, right? And then come out and say, okay, you know what? You're right. This evidence does.
With the concessions as outlined, not that there were any, but just say it that way.
Well, the concessions that were offered to the EU, Microsoft has made I know there are people out there who just don't want the bigger to get bigger. And I completely understand that. We've had that kind of joking discussion with Leo, for example, but I hear from those people all the time. I just don't want them getting more or getting bigger, or, whatever it is. And yeah, listen, I hear you, but whatever. So
it was Kotick who simply said, like, cut the UK out of the deal then.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, just pretend they don't exist, because no offense if you're from the UK. I love the UK, but from a size of market perspective,
this is not worth. It's a $75 billion deal.
And it's worldwide, and this tiny country with a very small relatively speaking population is blocking this deal. And the regulatory body doing it is not elected. They don't represent the will of the future. They have now 3 times asked for the feedback from their residents, from gamers, from game companies, and every time they've heard the same thing. Yeah, we don't care. Just do it. We don't care.
Just move on.
I'm
really looking forward to see if the New Zealand Commerce Commission gets back in on this now too. So it's still good for the CMA.
Oh, boy. All right, please don't. So, all right. So Microsoft came back with something that I think is a little crazy. Frankly, I don't think this makes any sense. We're going to get into this, and I ended up having to do a very careful reading of the 2 announcements, because there's one from Microsoft and there's one from this other company we'll get to in a moment. Because the EU, in the wake of this, said, wait a minute, we have these legally binding agreements with Microsoft. Does this thing screw any of that up?
Right.
And we're going to get to that. But so here's the deal. And this is so weird to me. And this applies worldwide, not in the UK. It's worldwide except for the EU, because the EU has already said okay to this.
But so is a bunch of other countries too.
I know. I know. That's what they said. I'm just saying. I was going to say, as has the rest of the world, right?
Right.
Okay. But this is worldwide. And so Microsoft is going to license to Ubisoft, which is another a game publisher, right?
Right.
That they will have the word exclusive does not appear here. It's very easy to say exclusive. It's not exclusive, but any Activision Blizzard games that are currently available or will be available over the next 15 years, by the way, not 10, 15 years, will go through Ubisoft Plus, which is a game subscription service that I bet most of you did not know anything about.
No.
So there are 2 tiers. The announcement does not mention that, but actually, technically, there are sort of 3 tiers, because there's an add-on for PlayStation, but we'll call it 2 tiers. The more expensive tier is called multi-access. That is the tier that's going to get these games. So it's actually not going to be in other words, if this went through Xbox Game Pass,
right.
That's not true. Actually, that's not true. Okay, no. It will be going through Xbox Game Pass. I'm sorry. There's so much nuance here. Let's just talk cloud gaming for one moment. Sorry, this is just cloud gaming. I should say up front. I can already feel myself getting excited here. I should just say up front. This does not impact the retail availability of games, right? Digital or physical.
This is purely about quote unquote cloud gaming, the thing that doesn't exist.
So if you are a Game Pass subscriber, right, Xbox, PC, or Ultimate, you will still be able to get these games there. You'll just have to download them. You can't stream them. Okay. So Ubisoft Plus multi-access will be the exclusive place outside of the EU. So stupid. To get any of the Activision Blizzard games in streaming form. That's going to be it for 15 years.
They should call it Multipass. It's Ubi Multipass.
Yes, exactly. That's right. One of the best movies ever made.
The only thing that I think is clever in this whole thing, and I wonder if it's really about, is that Ubisoft is headquartered in France, which means you just drank the EU.
You just
that's the whole point.
Nailed
Did I out your punchline?
This is my punchline. No, but I love that you know that and thought of that, because you're smart, and of course you did. But
this is like a European company. I mean,
well, but wouldn't it be a UK company?
No, it's so much better. It's a European company.
Is there a UK? Oh, there is that company.
The children fight with each other.
I mean, but the point of this is you are a UK regulator. You're not in the EU.
That's a good point.
Why would this is like the FTC propping up Sony and Microsoft-Activision Blizzard.
Yeah.
is the UK now propping up a French software house. You can't make this stuff up.
I love it. It's, I mean, a moment, as soon as that hit me, I'm like, Brad Smith may be a genius. And he's like, you know what? I'm just going to make your life worse. I don't make it worse further. Like now, if they refuse that deal, they're upsetting Ubisoft. Like this is,
upsetting Europe, I guess. But I mean, the UK should be used to that by now. So here's the thing. I've established, I think it's a fact objectively that cloud gaming today is nothing. Even all the key game industry players who showed up at the FTC hearing, including the guy who runs PlayStation America, the guy who used to run Stadia, have all said this is not a market and it will not be for the foreseeable future.
Until physics changes and the speed of light can be exceeded.
Yeah. So there's $69 billion worth of value in Activision Blizzard. There's probably about $17 worth of value in cloud gaming, but we're going to slice that off and we're going to hold the rest of this deal in balance. And I say that because, by the way, cloud gaming, not profitable. We're going to hold this whole thing in the balance so that you can make this decision about this non-entity and do something different with it and complicate this deal. And I just don't understand why we're even bothering. The answer to this should have been like, no, F you. We're just doing it, and you can deal with it later after the fact in court. We're not doing this.
Sure. Tell us what services you want us to turn off to be compliant in your country, and you can explain to your citizens why they don't have access to that.
Why you're a non-voted in commission of idiots decided to do this. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So, okay.
I honestly think this is funnier. Like this is actually funnier.
It would be funny to me if I wasn't. I just need this to end. Like I know. So now
because we're going to go to the big thing that's upsetting you is he just made it longer. That's what's really happened.
Nonsensical is tough on me. Nonsensical over a long period of time it's just, I have a hard time with this. Yes.
No. This in a lot of ways this reads like a threat. It's like, I'll get the French involved. You'll love it.
Yeah, exactly. So, so here's the thing. All right. So this stupidity just happened, right? I just mentioned that the EU, the European Commission, the EC, which is their antitrust regulatory body, had already approved this deal and got concessions out of Microsoft, which are legally binding, which is one of the things that Microsoft went to the CMA with, saying, look, you don't have to do anything extra. We can't do things that you think we're going to do because we still have to deal with these guys.
Right.
Well, the EC now has issued a statement. It's very short and it's very troubling. It says the commission is carefully assessing whether the developments in the UK require another notification to the commission. A notification? What does that mean? Right? Does this mean that they have concerns that this deal will contradict the legal requirements of their deal with Microsoft? So,
I went to the EU's mad at here. I don't think they're mad at Microsoft.
Yeah. Well, so here I mentioned the word exclusive. This is an important part of it. So part of the issue here is we don't know a lot of details about the Ubisoft thing. For example, we know that there's going to be an unstated amount of lump sum that Ubisoft will pay to Microsoft upfront for this. So we'll find out more.
I'm betting $1.
Okay, that's fine. So we also know that Microsoft will be paid based on some usage metric, which they've only described very vaguely. For the games that are streamed over Ubisoft Plus. So Microsoft is going to make money from this. The CMA has taken a product that is a money loser for Microsoft and figured out a way to generate revenues and probably in profits because someone else is going to foot the bill. Right. Classic. Okay, good job, CMA. Okay, that's hilarious. However, I keep saying exclusive. Nowhere does the word exclusive appear in the public descriptions of these of this agreement. Now, Brad Smith for Microsoft actually does use two renditions of the word exclusive, but not related to this particular topic. So that's not in there. What Ubisoft says is that it has cloud streaming rights to games like Call of Duty and more, and then later, actually it doesn't matter. It's basically it's all Activision Blizzard games is what it really is. It does not say anything about these being exclusive, right? So that's kind of a soft evidence thing for me because Ubisoft wants to talk about Ubisoft. They wouldn't necessarily talk about other things. But Microsoft literally never says exclusive. So going back to the EU and this notion that all of Microsoft, the deal with the EU was that all of Microsoft's cloud streaming games would be available to competitors, basically. And so this says to me that Ubisoft will not be the only company doing this, right? That it is still going to allow other companies to do that. And Brad Smith says explicitly, he writes, Microsoft is engaged. He says, we will maintain, we did this believing that we're in full compliance with the EU's commitments, with our commitments to the EU. It will still honor its legal obligations, right? Of course, it has to. And this tells me that Microsoft could, in fact, possibly release Activision titles on Xbox Cloud Gaming, but could definitely allow third parties to release those games, and has to actually, according to their EU thing. So I think
I'm sure the two people who use it are going to be really excited.
Yeah, the thing is, the game everyone talks about here is Call of Duty. Right. Call of Duty is not playable via cloud streaming. No. Most of Call of Duty occurs in a multiplayer arena that absolutely would never work with cloud streaming. So this doesn't. We are literally, this is the ultimate example of much ado about nothing, which is classic because, as I said to Brad the other day, I referred to this as regulatory theater, but I forgot how much the British love the theater because they are going on and on and on and on and are not going to stop. And we'll see. So here's my expectation. The EU is going to be fine with this. As stupid as it is, I would love to have them come out and say, this doesn't violate our agreement, but this doesn't make any sense. Stupid. Microsoft can license Activision Blizzard games and other games, right? Their own games to rival services, right? Not just the one. And I think that's what's going to happen. The trick here is, does the CMA fall for this? And I would say, based on the evidence so far, where they keep harping on this one thing, cloud gaming, and how stupid this is, and how this doesn't address any concerns at all, I would say, yeah, they're probably going to approve it because it's stupid, and they're stupid, and I don't understand what goes on in their brains. It makes no sense. The things that they're concerned about don't make any sense.
Yeah. So, and now they have a solution that doesn't make any sense, so they should be happy.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, they could be like, oh, yeah, that's totally good. Like, what is wrong with you people?
Build us a concession.
Yeah.
This episode of Tech Break is brought to you by ACI Learning. ACI Learning's courses are easy to navigate, and their structure is much more straightforward than traditional training programs. Try it for yourself, and then bring the whole team along. For individuals, use the code TWiT30 for 30% off a standard or premium individual IT Pro membership at go.acilearning.com/twit.